All right. Okay. So today, Greg Stern is wearing a different hat. He's the co-founder of 3P Champions, but he is also the epitome of 3P Champions. And since this is your baby too, uh, wear your 3P champion hat and let's start off the way we do with other guys and tell me about your passion, purpose, and principles.
Wow. So it's funny being on the other end of this. You don't think about it as much, but I consider myself as a person that has a few passions. Uh, One in the athletic field has always been basketball, and that's been a passion of me as a kid. It's a passion of mine now. It was a passion because not only was it a sport, but it was a sanctuary for me growing up, where it was a place to go and just be myself. But I learned so much through the sport that applied to regular life. And not only that, but it pretty much centered my whole life in terms of my relationships. It gave me relationships in friendship, but also in business and all types of things. So my passion's always been basketball. Uh, there's something about it that's just different than everything else. But I always wanted to be like the guys that were my coaches when I was a kid. And once I had mentors that I really looked up to, I think that kind of developed my passion. My purpose, I think that changes all the time. Well, not all the time, but different steps in my life. But my purpose, I think, is really to essentially communicate, relate, and help people. Um, at the same time, I think my purpose is just to be a good human being.
Hmm. So, I mean, your passion and basketball, as you say, has led to so much of what you're doing now, and I think, and that's as it should be because basketball represents a lot more than just. It's actually more than just dribble, shoot, swish. Um, but it's a sanctuary. It was a sanctuary for you, and I know that you've evolved that passion to sharing it with kids.
Yes.
And particularly, I think because you see yourself in a lot of the kids that you coach and teach, and you understand how somebody helped you gain confidence when you were a little undersized and you went on to become great. And I know that you see that opportunity with kids you coach. So tell me how your playing translates to you as a coach.
Well, you're exactly right, Rob. If you're aware and you look back at yourself, you see yourself how you were and where you're at. And I think when you're getting kids, you can kind of see yourself in them. When I was a kid, I was a pretty good little athlete, but like you said, I was undersized, really small. So early on, it wasn't a big factor. But let's say, close to middle school, where people used to change or start physically to change, my confidence was not as high as it could have been. And outside of sports, I was pretty shy. So when I developed, some skills and went to camps and had some mentors tell me, hey, you're pretty good and you can be pretty good someday if you work at it. And they gave me a little confidence, a little belief in myself. It made me feel good. So I always liked how that made me feel, and it gave me something to believe in. And now as a coach or a father, whatever, when I'm coaching kids, it's more than just the sport. I look at that kid and I go, where's Greg in that kid? And I always look at, okay, maybe he's shy or maybe he's this or this. But when I find that connection where I think the kid's like, I just go, what impacted me positively? How did I respond? How can I get through this kid to not only get him to believe in himself, but to trust me as the coach? And really, that's what it comes from. I think you go through your life and you learn about yourself and you become good because you can relate to people because they remind you of yourself. I
Mm,
mean, ultimately, I ask myself, if that was me, what would I need to feel good about myself?
mm. Yeah.
And that's usually where, and it takes a little bit of questioning and asking and patience with kids so they open up. And you have to have the skill of building trust with them so they're open to that. But
Well, I mean, you're asking questions because you're genuinely interested and you care. And
absolutely.
that's what we've determined are the criteria for a great coach. It's not about you. It's about the kids. Um, but other parallels that I know you share with a lot of the guys we've spoken with. Um, you're a happy guy. You're a pretty satisfied guy. You got a lot of great things going on, but it wasn't always easy for you, I understand as well. And you say the basketball court was a refuge. Why were you looking for a refuge?
I don't think initially I was. I mean, my first sport, I was really good at it, was baseball. And at that point, I've seen great. So let's say 8, 9, 10 years old. I think I was like the MVP of every team, and I was the smallest guy. I was great, and the world was perfect. As I got, I think it was about 5th, 6th grade, in my personal life with family, there were some things going on that I truly wasn't aware of that caused some big change, not only myself, but my brother, who was 3 years older. And I think that experience and going through some of the turmoil, some things with my family, I dealt with a lot of emotions, a lot of understanding what's going on. Was I a bad kid for my parents? They were going through a divorce and didn't understand why, and just I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know where to focus the energy, and so I would just go to the basketball court and start shooting around, and I'd do it for hours, and one of it was fun, but two, I didn't have to think about my feelings and wonder what was going on and be scared and that type of thing. So it became a sanctuary early on because I could somehow deal with myself when my mind was on the court. I didn't have to worry about things that took me down, I guess, to sadness or fear. And as I went through my life, whenever I had some struggles, I could just kind of clear my mind when I went, even if it was just shooting around. So it's always been a sanctuary when I'm confused about life or not knowing what to think or feel. And I go there and it just clears my head, and it kind of just dumps my brain out, makes it clear. It's kind of just a place where you can go, it's a refuge. It's a safe place. I can just be myself and be by myself. And I could shoot 1,000 shots, but the whole time be thinking about stuff, but it feels like I'm not, So.
Because the hooping is second nature to you.
Well, over time it becomes that, yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of your principles, let's talk a little about those. What's important to you? What do you want people to know about Greg Stern as a principled individual, which I know you are?
I think one of the most important things that you want people to think is that, one, a big thing is trust. And I want people to think that I'm authentic. And I think that comes from a lot of things, but I think I'm a principled guy. I want the truth. I want respect, but I want people to believe in me. And I try to show people, whether it's just in sports or as a dad, that, hey, I'm a hard worker. I'll do whatever it takes. I care. I follow the rules, and truly, I just want to be a good person. So, in terms of principles, I always believe, when I talk to kids, come into let's say a class or coaching situation where they may be good, they may not be good. I say, here's what I want from you. I want you to come in with a great attitude. I want you to listen, and I expect your greatest effort. I don't care if you're good, bad, or otherwise, but with those key components, you can grow and develop. So what I ask of people is hopefully what I bring when I'm a coach. I come in with a good attitude. I listen to them. I come with great effort. And then at that point, things happen. And what I've seen in my business career, my coaching career, my friendship is this. When you give tons out, you get tons back. It's a reflective world. If you work hard as a coach, as a teacher, as a friend, as a husband, people are going to work back and return it to you. And so that's kind of how I want to treat people like I would want to be treated, I want to give them my best, and I want to get their best.
So where did those principles come from?
I obviously they come from my parents early on. My parents, you know, there's an undercurrent going on with my parents in the relationship, but what I was taught was always about being good manners, a good person, treat people great, love your neighbor, always do your best. So that was a foundation that was in my head that I learned. But, when I was going through troubles, I found it in other people. And, early on, I think coaches, because I was playing so many sports, coaches that I trusted, I believed in, I think gave me a lot of that.
Such as?
Such as what?
Well, I mean, you can tell me about some of your coaches. I know about some of them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're a really good example, as the other 3P champions we've met are as well, of the impact of coaches.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it can be overemphasized. I see it every day. My kids are playing sports. I played sports, and a coach can make or break you.
Absolutely.
And that's a flat out truth. And in many cases, with youth leagues, all you have to do to be a coach is raise your hand. And it doesn't matter if you're qualified in terms of understanding the game or having played it, or whether you're an empathetic individual or not, whether you're doing it to make yourself feel good. So I think a lot of it is luck as to what kind of coaches you get, because I've had parents tell me, please pick my kid on your team.
Yeah.
Knowing that the wrong coach can turn you off, make a kid quit
Sure.
playing. So let's talk a little about your thoughts on coaching and coaches who had a positive and or negative impact.
Well, there's a lot of levels to that, especially different ages, but, we don't get to choose all of our coaches, like you said, but I know the difference for me, what a good coach was and what a good coach wasn't. And we talked this about many times with other people. It's like, when I needed a coach that cared for me and that pumped me up and that I respected, just words, as I got older, didn't do it. I had to trust and respect somebody. Now I always wanted to give 100%, and I did, but there's a difference between a coach that, just didn't connect with, or kind of had a fearful mentality of, like, I screwed up. But, I'd say the earliest coaches, I had a great, I was really good baseball player. I was really little. So the coach I had there was probably 18, my first guy named John Iverson. And it seemed like I got treated a little better than a couple, or most of the team, just because I was pretty good. But he was just the nicest guy, right? He just treated me like a friend would. And so he gave me the first coach. He was probably my first real coach. And from that, I got that, hey, if you're a good player, they treat you pretty good. Mm-hmm. That's what I felt, right? But as it went on, I played baseball all the time. And I played football and basketball, but baseball was number one. About junior high, I started liking basketball quite a bit, but I was tiny. So everybody liked it. Hey, look at Greg. He's just a little fiery. He was tiny. I mean, he was the smallest kid, scrappy. So you had people just liked you because you were small. But then you'd meet, play kids that were big and strong, and there'd be comments about, oh, he's too small, that type of thing. And even though I was pretty good, when I went to camp, I think it was my 8th grade year, that was when people started changing physically. A lot of guys were going through puberty, were growing, and I wasn't. Even though I was really scrappy and my skills were pretty good, it made a big difference. So I was fortunate to go to this camp at Gonzaga University. And at that time, not many people knew about Gonzaga like now, but my best friend at the time, his mom was the assistant dean of students. And he had said, hey, Greg, you got to come to this camp with me. It's at Gonzaga University. Now, at that time, I didn't know anything further than my junior high and the schools around my neighborhood. Like, what is Gonzaga? And funny enough, we were in class one day, and a coach that we had at basketball said, hey, you got to see this guy, John Stockton, Greg. He's the best point guard in the world, the best guy in the country. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. This guy's at Gonzaga. I don't know what Gonzaga is. But fortunately, at this camp, they divvied up kids at their age, and they put them with coaches, and John Stockton became my coach. Mm. And now when you're there, everybody's talking about this guy, John Stockton. I didn't know he was the star of Gonzaga, but he's just, everybody loved him and he was a superstar apparently at Gonzaga. So I think I was going in 8th grade, or maybe it was 8th grade going in 9th grade, but they moved me up to his team, which was high school kids. And I was the smallest guy. And I remember, we were just scrimmaging and stuff, and he always pumped me up. And I told him at one point that I was scared because I didn't think I'd ever grow. I'd be too small. And he says, oh, and he kind of pumped me up. He says, oh, Greg, hey, man, I'm a little guy. I was a little guy like you. I am a little guy like you. You can do whatever you want. All you got to think about is working hard, doing your best, and let that stuff take care of itself. You're always going to be as good as you can be, man. It's what you put into it. But, he kind of gave me inspiration that it's okay to be little as a basketball player. Mm. And that's when I really got sucked into basketball. And I loved it because here's this guy that everybody loves, and he was awesome. And he's talking to me, and I'm a little guy on this high school team or whatever, and just gave me a lot of positive reinforcement and belief. And I think that's when I turned the table on. It's okay to be small, and you can do anything as long as you put effort and work in it. So that was the first time. And he wasn't really a coach per se at school, but he coached me at camp. But then I had some high school coaches. My high school coach on the other end of it was pretty good, but now size was taking effect, and he kind of took me the other direction. At one point, he was taking me to schools and having me demonstrate drills and ball handling. I had some pretty good skills. The next year, we had some kid coming in from New York who was a good athlete, but really was a good basketball player. And I'm so pumped up because I'm kind of like this guy that's going to start and be this good player. And he brings me in before he even met this kid and says, hey, Greg, you're probably going to be the backup point guard this year, because it didn't make any sense to me. Hey, I'm good. You've been taking me around. You told me I was going to be this guy and starting. And now I may not have even played. I'm going to be a second banana. And I don't know what it is about it, but it broke my heart. That kid came in and I had that, and I wasn't mentally tough. And maybe it was good for me in the long run. In the short term, it broke me. So I wasn't as good at practice. My mind was in it. I always felt kind of negative. But he was a young coach, and I was a young kid. I didn't understand, but I still to this day know I was better than him. By the end of the year, I was starting him, but it broke me mentally for a while. So I'd go to high school and do okay. In the summertime, I'd crush it. We play the same guys. I'd do well and dominate. Yeah. But I was mentally not tough in high school because I didn't have the confidence, because I didn't think my coach had the confidence in me, and I didn't perform as well. So, the next coach was going back to John Stockton. That gave me a lot of positive reinforcement. It was a guy named Coach Kerry Pickett. And to this day, he's an idol of mine in a way, and I respect him. He's a friend. He's a coach, but he actually coached John as a kid, and he's probably the reason John became so fundamentally sound. He coached all of John's kids, but he was a guy that just a hard-nosed, hard-ass kind of coach, but he also had that soft touch. Once you earned his respect, he gave everything he had, and he taught me a lot of fundamentals. He pumped me up, and he gave me a lot of responsibility. And at camps, he helped me run things. So we had this camp with John Stockton School Basketball that was, 3 weeks in the summer. It was one of the biggest in the country. And I was a younger guy on the staff, and he made me a director. And so in this camp, I just felt like I was King Tut. I loved being around it. Stockton was there. We'd have college guys and pros guys, and I was one of the main guys. So he gave me confidence, not only teaching me basketball, but just being a person and giving me responsibility where I had to grow. But, he was a coach I respected. John I respected. I had a coach at junior college for 1 year I respected. And they were the ones that were hard on me, but they loved me. And what they told me, they showed me. And I think that's what I like to be, I want to see it. I want to give my best, but it feels better when someone cares about you, more than just a basketball player or whatever. And they make you better as a person.
Yeah, it's funny. It's come up a couple of times with these big strong guys that we've been talking to, the alpha dogs in every gym they've ever walked in, including yourself. But all these guys, at some point, the word that comes up is love.
Yeah, man.
If you don't feel like your coach loves you, it's not going to have the same impact. And any coach that doesn't make his kids understand that he loves them, they don't, they're not he's not their father, but he loves them because they're giving what they have to him to help him, and he's given everything he has to help them. It's about helping each other. So if there's no love in the equation, it's going to fall short of the goals, whatever those goals are.
Absolutely. There's two sides of that love because, growing up, you don't know it as much, but hey, there's a tough love too, whether it be your parents, but in coaches, so, it's a team sport and the goal is, to win. But you can win by building people up and loving them. You can be a hard-nosed coach, but still love them. But that takes communication and understanding, and sometimes some coaches I've been around coaches that are just hard-ass egos that I think are unaware of some kids and don't know how to get through to them. And they think my way or the highway. And that probably worked in the past, but I think people need nowadays, especially, you can be hard-nosed, but you have to love them. Because I believe this, the more that kid sees that I care about him and I show him that about me and he feels confident in me, he's going to give his best effort and he's going to get the most out of it. I want him to know that my expectations are high, but I want to let him know that he can reach them and why he can reach them and understand how he can get there, not just demand it, because I think that's showing love. If a guy drove my ass, but I knew he loved me, I'm gonna do whatever it takes.
Of course, because
if he wants to be, I don't respect him as a person and he's just a jerk. I mean, I want to give 100%, but it does affect me.
Yeah, well, because at every level, until you're getting paid, and even at that level, you see like the NBA playoffs now. These guys in the middle of the fourth quarter, they ain't thinking about what their paychecks. Yeah. They're doing it because they want to win, and you can see it. That at least with some of them, they're having a good time.
Yeah.
But certainly, until you get to that level, there's an element of you got to enjoy it. You can work your ass off. You can sweat like hell. You can run till you're dropping, but that's fun. It's so fun. There's nothing else you'd rather be doing at that point. And if that environment doesn't include an element of, let's have a good time.
Yeah.
All the times I was coaching, people used to talk about make it fun for the kids. Now I made it fun. First time I coached the district team, I ended up giving them all nicknames. Yeah. And we had a great time. And some of those nicknames, they were like 10, 11, 12. They still go by those names now. But, they knew that no coach ever wanted to win more than I did.
Yeah.
But I never talked about it. I didn't say, if we don't win, we suck. If you don't win, you suck. It's like, bring your A game. That was one thing. You got to bring your A game every single time you play. And if you do that, I'll let the chips fall where they may. If we win, which I think we will, absolutely, because I think our game is better than their A game. Our A game's better, but our B game's not as good as their A game. So bring everything you got. Let's play together. I think we're going to do fine, but if we play hard, we'll be all right. And
I think that's part communication too, because you join a sport, and obviously the higher you get up, the more competitive it is. The winning's maybe a little more emphasized, but you mentioned never talk about winning. My idol has always been, when I heard about him, Mr. Reading, was John Wooden. I found him fascinating because reading about when he was a kid to where he's an adult, the guy is just who he is, and he is so principled, so detailed, so focused, so developed, so intelligent, and all he does care about is giving back and teaching. And he didn't even call himself, he said, I want to be called a teacher, not a coach. But everything is like you said, everything's a byproduct of your efforts. You don't chase a goal and win because you missed the whole process. You got to go through the process of growing and learning, developing. And that's what, a byproduct, you might win. But even if his definition of success is basically saying you feel good about giving your best effort. You gave all you had, and that's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
You can't win, but you gave everything you have, you still won. You may not win the game. You're the best you could be.
Yeah.
So, going back to coaching kids now, what I see in myself back then, I realized one of the most important things for me in any genre, any area, whether it be school or relationship or basketball or sports, was confidence. I know that if I got a kid and I size him up, I want to be honest with him where I think he stands. I'll give an example, because I know if I can get a kid to believe in where he's at, and so he's self-aware, and then instill that you can get better, but you're confident in your own skills. That quit comparing yourself to someone. Here's where you're at. Here's what you have, but you can get here. But let's compare yourself to your own effort, right? But confidence is everything, because when a kid starts feeling confidence, he'll start trying harder. He'll take more risks. And if you break that confidence, they're never going to be as good as they want to, right? And I think confidence is a huge thing that coaches can instill. With John Wooden, that's what he did. He says, hey, we're going to work on every little skill set that our weaknesses and strengths, and we're going to get it so dialed in that you can give your 100% effort, you know where you stand, and all we're going to practice is that. We're not going to worry about anything exterior, and if we do the best we can do as an individual, as a team, we'll live with that. And for him, what was the result? Shit, they won all the time.
Everything. Yeah.
But when I talk to kids, I look at them, I go, where they're at. And I get these little kids, when first hit, I love it too, because, kids are, they're fragile. You get those fiery ones that just got to go get them, but most kids aren't like this. But they come in, and let's just say, like, my kid played second, third grade basketball, and he was pretty ahead of some of the kids because he played a lot, younger guy. They'd come in and we I teach them how to dribble. Oh, you're terrible. And I'd smile at them and go, you are terrible. You're terrible. And so was I, and so was he, and she. Everybody starts, they're terrible. Let me ask you a question. When did you start tying your shoe? Did you do it the first time? No, you were terrible. So let's get over that terrible. But I bet you if we try this, let's do it today. Let's see where you're at next week. And we'll see in 2 weeks, and let's see if we got a little better. Because I bet you won't be as terrible as you are now. But I just want you to know, everybody, Michael Jordan, when he was your, was terrible. So basically, you start someplace, your effort and your skill, maybe coaching helps, you'll get better. You'll continuously get better. You may not always win, but if you keep plugging along, you'll get better. And that's one thing I learned from Stockton, those guys. It would help me. I plug along, and when I was winning and beating guys, say early in high school and college, or even after that, I was crushing them because I kept going and going and going and going and going. I find that in my career. I find that in trying to teach my kid. If you don't give up and you keep trying, you're going to grow and learn, and you will get better. If you don't, you might not be human. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me, and I've seen it in my 2 kids and how they're different, and you got 2 kids and they're different, and every kid's different. And, there's probably some element to whether or not you got that gene that makes you want to get better every single time.
Yeah.
And, you had all these coaches, and some, world-renowned coaches, and some, as you say, who were just thinking, can this kid help me win games? And if he decides some other kid can help him win games more than you can help him, you're going to ride the bench. Whereas he may not be looking at you, 3 months from there, or what you can be, or how he can help him win games. So a lot of coaches take a short view, and I think that's a real shortcoming. But you were also a kid that soaked everything up. You seem to have processed everything as it was going on. You knew when you were being kind of built up, but a coach who will tell a kid you're great when you're not isn't doing the kid any good. But you need to be that kid that can take from the coach what's going to help them. and not every kid does that, and as a coach, you have to be a communicator, as you say, and you got to read every kid and see what every kid needs. And, frankly, not every kid's going to be a star ever.
Oh, yeah. But
And
those kids need to hear the truth too.
they need to hear the truth, but they also need to know that.
Worst thing you can do with even great players or young kids is get some false expectation, because it's kind of like living a lie. You're like, if you're thinking one way or the other, if you don't have a self-awareness of where you're at, and it's not being emphasized by your coach, you're going to struggle mentally. Yeah. At least I believe you will. I was thinking about something else. When I was at Gonzaga camp, that the first time was Stockton, we were talking about being small, and he said to me, which had a huge impact. He said, "Look, Greg, people think it's all big guys sport and whatever, and it can be at times." He goes, "But no matter what you do in life, you got to take the mentality like you're the little guy, you're the weaker guy at everything you do. And that's your where you're supposed to think you're at, which means that tell yourself you need to work harder. You got to do things better." And that should be the mentality, whether you're small or big. Just because that gives you a little chip on your shoulder, but because you're small, you can do things better. You just got to outwork them. You got to do things better. So maybe you should dribble better. Maybe you got to run a little faster. Maybe you set a better screen. Every little thing you can do better, you should go above and beyond what you think you can do. But there will be things you will have to do better than other people. You can't let size, I hear this all the time. First thing people say when they say, "You must play basketball. You're 6'8". Heck, I never played basketball in my life. Or you're a little guy. You probably never played basketball. Well, you'll find out that guy never did, and that kid really was great. Well, what's the difference? Yeah. This guy's super quick, and he honed in on his skill, and it's an advantage to him. Whereas maybe someone else, I'm a little guy, I just can't play and never try. So you can be little or big in any sport and get there. I mean, it's hard for some, but there are advantages to being small in basketball, and there's advantages of being big in basketball. There's advantages of being a lot of things that people don't think they are, but it's how you twist it in your mind.
Yeah, I think I think basketball taught you so many life lessons that it's just a metaphor for life. It is. Even being a teammate, what's an assist? Mm-hmm. An assist is enabling somebody else to score. Yeah. We talk about I don't remember if it was Derek Sparks or Tim Manson. I think it was Derek talked about uplifts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what an assist is on the court. Well, that's what an assist is off the court.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how much of what happens to all of us is luck. I don't know how your life would have been different had you never met John Stockton, because you guys were made for each other. Mm-hmm. Because I know that he saw himself in you, and I know that you saw yourself in him. He is a little guy. Even at the time you met him, he was probably the smallest counselor at the camp. He's always been the smallest guy on the court, and he's, one of the greatest players that ever lived. So,
one thing that guy has, and I see this, and I actually see it in every avenue. People who are successful, one, they have to have I think, a passion for and a love for something, because to sustain something you don't like is hard. But John Wooden, John Stockton, the discipline and the focus in what they do is almost unmatched. I mean, they're so driven and focused that they're going to get there. And in life and anything, if you're not disciplined, you have to know what you need to do, but then you have to follow suit and do those things and stick to the plan. And that guy, I mean, to this day, is so disciplined. I've never met face to face anybody that I know that's more disciplined than that guy. I saw it in him. I saw it in a boss when I was working in the corporate world. What separated those guys? John had a little more skill, but even this other guy, there wasn't much different than a lot of people, but he was focused and disciplined. He knew what he wanted. He had a plan to get there. It always goes direction, but he was so disciplined. So I started looking at people, even people we talked to. Well, what got him there? At some point, there was a passion, a focus, and a discipline. And if you're not disciplined, you're going to falter.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to falter before you realize why.
Well, I just saw this yesterday. Funny enough, I don't know, it was some kind of quote related to like, there's no getting around struggle. Struggle is the only way you can succeed. And it truly is. And sports is a great world for that, because even if you're the greatest, you're going to fail. You're going to struggle. You're going to lose. You're going to feel like a winner. You're going to feel like a loser. And it teaches you so much about life. And in regular life and outside of the sport, you're going to fail and you're going to win and you're going to lose. And it gives you an education on how to live, because you face everything. You know, one thing I love about especially basketball or any sport is the diversity, right? You know, when I played hoops, black, Chinese, you know, green, blue, it didn't matter, man. We were playing, we all had the same goal, we loved each other. And, you know, it's different sometimes on the outside, but in that world, you learn about people. And you just get to learn about life. So when you go out in the real life, you can relate to things maybe better than other people. You can't win on a team without communication. As a 5-man team, I don't care how many athletes that are great on you, you're not going to win the big thing if there's not some chemistry. You have to learn to deal with people. You have to be servant mentality sometimes, but you have to care. You have to have commitment. You got to trust each other. You got to love each other. Every team that I see that's phenomenal in any sport, you seem to have that. The best athletes, the best people, they don't always win.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing I think you do, and you know, I don't know, you could fit in a thimble what I know about genealogy and genetics and whatnot, but you can look at somebody and, you know, sometimes they look just like their dad, or sometimes you'll see a particular affectation that's like, wow, that's just like, but you know, what I see in you, and from the first time we met to now, is you hold on to relationships. Yeah. And talk to me a little about the importance of relationships in your life.
Oh man, I truly think that's the main scope of life, is having a relationship. And we're humans and we all relate different ways, but you know, good relationships make me feel good about myself. But there's so many different type of people, and people have so much to offer, but it's the centerpiece of everything. Without good relationships, man, what's the value in winning and gaining things if you don't have someone to share it with, right? I truly like to help people, especially people who help me. There's a good feeling about that. It's like, you know, we're talking about basketball, the assist. You know, is a good feeling about, hey, you set up so somebody got the glory, right? It's like, I don't know, I feel like relationships are so important. I mean, you need to have lots of them. I've always just wanted to be liked, you know, loved, and the more people you seem to meet that you like and you love, it just makes you feel more whole. I just think relationships are everything.
But
I haven't always had a lot of real close relationships. You know, I mean, I have some really close ones, but I have a lot of relationships and people, you know, that we have a lot in common. But I listen to people, I think, when I meet them. And that's why I think I'm good sometimes at connecting people, is because, you know, it might have came a little bit from a job I had too, where I was a recruiter. You have to evaluate people and size them up and listen and learn and qualify them in a sense. But when you start meeting lots of people, you see there's a lot of commonalities, and maybe one person's not aware of another person, and you know both. He's like, those people are going to hit it off. They have the same values. They got great character. I bet you they'll hit it off, you know. But I think relationships are huge.
Yeah,
they're everything.
I think they are, and I think they're fragile. You know, I think you have to cherish them and take care of them. And I think that whole idea, I do think you're an incredible connector. I've seen it. And the thing about it is, it's just kind of another aspect of almost coaching. It's not about you. You're not hooking two people up so that you'll look like the great connector you are. You're hooking people up so they can both benefit from it.
I don't know what, I
understand,
know. Yeah.
understanding they're going to know how, when somebody ever says, how'd you guys meet? It was Greg Stern. So, I mean, it'll come back to you, but that's not the reason you do it.
No, I think most of the time I just have interest, but there is, sometimes you meet people because there's a relationship you want to develop too, right? You do something good for them, they listen a little more. But yeah, I don't, I can't tell you how many people I've probably connected just as relationships in business and stuff that, maybe you could have made money or whatever. I don't know. I just like helping connecting people. It's a good feeling,
Yeah.
and you get feedback. People like that. Hey, thank you for doing this. And I like when I'm connected to people, I just think the more you meet people, communicate with people, connect, you just kind of build your connections. You build, you grow, you learn new things. The stuff we're doing, I know a lot of these guys we're talking to, but I don't know a lot about them. Now that we've done some of these conversations, there's a reason why I was attracted to them, and wow, there's so much to learn from them. If we never met, never talked, never connected, wouldn't know half this stuff. I probably wouldn't be doing half the stuff I'm doing,
Yeah. Well, but you're also interested, it's a matter of how you were raised and who influenced you, but you're interested in people. And that's a skill, and not everybody has it. And they're all of these things go into the sort of gumbo that makes up your life. But trust, if people don't trust you, it doesn't matter what you do for them and what they do. There's just no foundation. It's like built on sand. So I can tell you for a fact, people, yeah, they like you, but they trust you. They know that if you give them some advice, it's for their benefit. It's not for your benefit. And I don't think anything is more liberating in a relationship than knowing that that guy has my interests at heart.
Well, Rob, I think, relationships are pretty much glued together by trust. And, trust is hard, but I feel like for myself, even when I was talking about coaches earlier, both ways, you have to earn trust. And it's easy to not put in the effort to earn that trust, but you break trust, and we've probably all done that, man, that changes everything. But
Yeah.
so I think when I work with some of these people, maybe they're like, well, why does this guy talk to me? What does he want out of this?
Yeah.
And sometimes I just want to get to know him. When I see somebody like some of these guys we've talked to and their backgrounds, and I'm kind of fascinated. I want to know, well, how did he get there? How did he get through those challenges? And how did he become such a good speaker and a leader? We talked to Dale Brown. I mean, he's unbelievable. I'm truly interested. I want to know what makes that guy tick and how did he become who he is. And funny thing we're finding out is a lot of these guys have a similar path, maybe different areas, but in terms of experiences with relationships and coaches, and they're similar. I'm just fascinated by people.
There's a lot of adversity
Every one of them
in the early past of so many of these people that you begin to wonder if that's a requirement of becoming, evolved and an effective, empathetic leader. I don't know that it is. I think, you don't necessarily have to suffer personal trauma or, Dale Brown's father left 2 days before he was born, never to return. And Derek had a similar thing. And, I mean, everybody goes through difficulty, but I think again, it's the relationships that, and the people who come to influence you. And, I'm always curious about how much of it is there really a fate? Is there really karma? Is there really any of that stuff? Or is it all just coincidence? If you went to the camp and instead of going to Stockton's group, you went to like Billy Bob Johnson, who, looked at you and said, he's too short. Nothing he can do for me. But all your breaks haven't been great. People suffer sadness. I think, again, it comes down to character. How do you, it's And, I've heard it so many times in baseball, in anything. It's, in baseball, I've told so many kids that, people in the Hall of Fame failed 2 out of 3 times.
Mhm.
If you get a hit 1 out of 3 times, you can make it to the Hall of Fame. If you do that for your whole career, your whole life. And perspective is a lot, but it's all character. It's how do you deal. No scout wants to know how a kid acts when he goes 4 for 4. They want to know how he's going to respond to going 0 for 4. Is he still going to cheer his team on? Is he still going to get up the next time expecting and looking for a hit? Is he still going to, have the confidence when he gets to the plate? So character, I think, is number one. That's what I think determines whether you're going to be successful in anything, is your character, strength of character, purity of character. And then the other thing, as you said, you call it confidence. I call it belief.
Yeah.
We watched it in the French Open. It's the guy who believes, who usually wins. You got to have the skill. Skill, I think, is over here. If you don't have the skill, that's a given. Everybody who gets to a certain level has the skill.
Yeah.
It's who has the character. That's gonna be this.
Well, I think that, some of this is we create our own karma. Some of it is learned. I truly believe now, being older, some people are fortunate enough to run across good mentors and good coaches. Some people don't have that, but I know that as a young person, when you're learning, I think every child should have a good coach, a good mentor, outside of their family for everything you do. And some people, I was fortunate enough to meet some people that gave me some positive strokes as a young kid, and kept me in sports and made me believe in myself that if I didn't run into, maybe it wouldn't have happened. So some of it's probably circumstance, some probably luck, sometimes it's in your genetics. I don't know, but I agree with you. But I think those values and character and respect and working hard, not everybody has it, but they need someone to drive them a little bit. They need people to believe in them, and that's coaches and mentors. And doing it on your own is impossible. And when you're down, you need someone to lift you up.
Yeah.
And when you need to learn and grow, you need someone to direct you. So I don't know what makes some of these guys successful, but every one of the ones we talked to has had struggle, and they've always had someone that mentored them, whether it's a coach or a teacher, because you can't do it alone. And it is belief. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to make it.
And every single one of them, every single one we've spoken to is passing it on.
Absolutely. Look at it. I mean, that's kind of what we talked about. Why do you want to build relationships? Why do you want to connect? Because someone did that for you. It feels good. And these guys realize maybe there was a time in life that changed them for the good, and they want to give back to what they got. And that's one of the most admirable and cool things about being a coach. Just think about John Wooden, who coached so old, anybody now that coached for a long, how many relationships, how many positive strokes, how many people did they impact that changed their lives? Over the course of their life, they probably have thousands of people that they had a personal impact, not only on their court, but in their life. I mean, you hear these stories of these people. Look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Walton, how they talk about their coach. And, in coaching, you can change lives. And I think people that you did change their lives, they realize it. And a lot of them want to give back and do the same thing for others. And I know I did. I want, when you see somebody that has some potential and maybe they don't have the comments, I go, wow, I want to help that kid.
I know you do.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, that's why you're a 3-peat champion, brother. Well, I know you're up against a time limit. Anything else you'd like people to know about, either about you, about life, about?
Oh man, about me. Well, I think as you've seen some of the crazy stuff I do. You gotta work hard. You gotta have character. You gotta build great relationships. You gotta be a good person, but you also have to enjoy life beyond that. So
Yeah.
I've kind of let loose here in my older age, where I like to have fun too. So you hear me, Yeah, I love to sing. I'm a shower singer, closet singer. You probably seen some of my stuff.
I didn't know that song you sent me earlier. I didn't know
Oh, it's a
that one.
great song. Yeah. So I can be looked at as a pretty goofy guy. I'm a goofball. If you saw me with the stuff I do with my kids, people think, who's that? Who's that nut? Um, I think that, as you walk through life, you have to have open eyes. You have to have an open heart. You got to listen and you learn. You need to grow. You need to be a good person. And then at some point, you got to take that knowledge and that experience. You got to give back. And if I become a billionaire, but I did as an asshole, I ain't treat people good. What do you get from that? You get nothing.
It ain't
I
worth
want to die empty with that stuff, and have tons of people I cared about, have good relationships that, I felt like I had an impact. So my passion and purpose from this point on is, well, one, be a great father and impact my own kids, but just try to help and be a good guy, enjoy life.
I had done a video a long time ago about this doctor who was just incredible. And he was admired, universally admired, because of his character. But the one thing that one of the guys, and I interviewed 45 people for this project, and they all said extraordinary things. One of them was Dr. J. I think I talked to you about that. But one guy said he doesn't take himself seriously, but he takes his work seriously. And I thought, like, man, if somebody ever says that about me, that'll be all right.
Yeah. It's funny because if you saw me play, I'm 100% in. When I'm in life, I'm kind of like that. When I'm in, and I'm going full bore.
Same.
If I'm out, I'm kind of out. But there's times when people think, oh, that guy's two different people. Because when I'm on the court, I will play fair. I'll play hard. I'll get hard fouls. I won't cheat.
Yeah.
I won't be, I'll be a good sport. But I play with a vengeance.
Same here, man.
But off the court, I can be the goofiest, nicest, easiest guy. Everything I put on my kids' wall, right? This is kind of what I live by too. Is like, we have a lot of these words like trust, respect, work ethic. Be a good person, but everything centers around having a positive and a good attitude.
Yeah.
And I write this thing in my kids' wall. It says, attitude is everything, which you've heard a lot, but it really is, because a positive attitude will eventually bring back positive things in your life. A negative attitude is going to bring some negative vibes in your life. I do believe 100% of the time, I tell my kids all the time, hey, life's going to go up and down, in and out, but it's a reflective world. What you get out, what you put out in the world, it's going to come back. Maybe not immediately, but it will. If you want to sit there and cry and moan and complain, it's going to complain back to you. You're not going to get much of it. If you want to give your best effort and try and be a good person, it's going to reflect it back to you.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in my life. Man, karma's a mofo, right?
Yeah.
Good and bad. So love your neighbor, be a good person, give your best effort, and be happy and live life. That's it.
I like it.
And find a good song to sing in the shower, Rob.
Sure, man. And put the shades on.
And you don't want to see in your eyes, though. Don't let them see your eyes when you're singing.
Those are the windows to the soul, brother.
Oh, man. Yeah. I get lost in the song. Hey, there's times when I'll sing a song, I'm like, dang, that's pretty good. Wow, I think I actually sound good that one. And I'll say, hey, Julie, what do you think of this? So that's terrible. Like, I knew it was, dang it. But it was fun.
Hey, listen, man, Greg, you're great. I love you. I'm so happy to be working with you and be friends with you.
I love you too, Rob.
Yeah. And listen, I know that my teammates loved me. My opponents hated me.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be.
Hey, I'll tell you what, just real quickly on that. Some of those relationships after you fought and battled become some of your best friends.
No question. It's absolutely true. Yeah. I mean, I played against my friend Albert, and we got in a fight on the court, and he could kick the shit out of me. Yeah. But I threw the ball at his head at one point, and at the end, and we had driven there together. I drove him to the game. I left him there. and you know, said like, good luck getting home, mofo, because kiss my ass. And we're like best friends.
I always felt like, man, all I know is to play hard and give my best effort. You may not like me, but you're gonna respect me out there.
And you're gonna know I did it fair.
Yeah, and
Uh-huh.
when you're, after the heat of the battle is off and you guys sit there talking, when you respect each other.
Yeah.
There's guys I hated, but man, I wish I had them on my team. I
Yeah.
respect
And
them.
those are some of the strongest friendships I have.
Yeah,
The guys I really did battle with and against.
yeah. Oh, I better roll here.
All right, man. Well, listen, it was great. You're great, Greg. You're the right guy in the right place. So keep sharing it, keep passing it along. Don't change a thing as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, one last thing I should say is about relationships. Find a good partner. Find a good wife.
Yeah,
I got me a good one, Rob.
I got me a good one too.
Be a good one.
Thank God.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well,
All right.
well,
Thanks,
Julie,
Rob.
Julie got a good one too, and I think she's pretty happy too.
All right, man.
All right,
Thanks a lot,
brother.
Rob. We'll catch up with you soon.
You got it, Greg.
All right. Take care.
See ya.